Welcome, everybody, back to another great episode of the Three Man Rush podcast. If you are joining us here on YouTube, we want to thank you so much for the support and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. That way, you can support your boys here and be notified whenever we drop new content, which, as you know, is going to be a lot coming up. We've got daily fantasy. Big Jared down here is going to cover. We have regular fantasy and dynasty leagues. Drew's covering. I've got you covered on the real life football stuff. It's going to be a lot of content, and we're really excited to bring it to you guys. And then if you're listening in the audio format, whether that's on Spotify, whether that's on Apple, whether it's on Amazon, whether it's on anywhere you can get podcasts on, because we're everywhere. We also want to give you a shout out as well to you. Thank you guys so much. And just make sure to hit the subscribe button and give us some feedback. Let us know kind of what you guys want to hear from us and things we could do better, things that we're already killing, because look, let's be honest, we're killing everything right now. Speaking of killing everything, we are now in the AFC North part of our divisional preview. So we have two divisions left. That's the AFC North, NFC North. We're going to be covering this week. And we're at the tail end here because we get Hard Knocks coming out this week. We have actual football being played this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. I get a Colts game on Saturday. I'm fucking hype. Can't wait. It's really exciting stuff. So if you are just joining us, whether, if you're a new viewer, just to let you know, my name's Landon. I'm your host here with my two co-hosts. That's Big Drew up there and Big Jared down at the bottom here if you're watching on YouTube. Just want to give a shout out to my boys here. What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good, brother.
Yeah, doing well, man. Day. Ready to knock out another division. Before we get into it, if you are new, I want to stress that as you're listening to this, as we get to your team, if you're listening to this episode because your team is in the AFC North, I would highly recommend that you do what I don't want to butcher his first name, but Mr. Walton in our most recent NFC South preview dropped in the comments and said the Falcons will shut you up this year. So we were not very kind to the Falcons.
Hey, let's chill. Who was the one person on this show that was trying to hype the Falcons up?
Landon led the Marcus Mariota fan club. Jared and I were not very nice to the Falcons.
Let's go, baby.
I did say Kyle Pitts number one tight end.
Yeah, but you don't nobody gets real life points for having a good fantasy player on their team, though. But Mr. Walton clearly thinks that we are lower on the Falcons than we should be. So
I'm not low on them. I'm not low on him.
Regardless if you picked him to finish last too, man. Stop gassing this man.
All I said was they're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be fun to watch.
But you still picked them to finish last behind Carolina. You don't think they're that damn good.
You splitting hairs here, all right?
But nonetheless, the point is we're gonna say our opinions on the teams in this division. And if you're listening, if you agree, disagree, whatever the case is, we love the feedback. And and we'll hop back in the comments on YouTube and hash it out with you there too. So as you're listening, be sure to drop your thoughts on our opinions on the teams in the AFC North.
Look, also I do want to give a disclaimer before we start this show. We are going to be covering the Cleveland Browns. And
oh Lord,
yeah. So like, there's going to be a Deshaun Watson discussion in here. It's going to happen. It's got to happen. It's part of the season. It's part of football. It's part of the off season. It's a huge part of the news cycle in football right now. So if you're sensitive to, if you want to stick up for sexual assaulting people and stuff like that, you probably don't want to listen to this episode because it ain't gonna be pretty. But that being said, we'll keep it professional. I might crack a joke or two here and there. You know how it goes. But it's a very, I guess, taboo subject, but it's a real life subject, and it's a hard subject to cover. It's very personal to a lot of women. So if we have women viewers, this is I just want to put it out there. We will be covering the Deshaun Watson stuff in this episode. We're not going to get super in depth, but I do want to let you guys know, it will be talked about.
Right. And just for those of you viewing on YouTube, if you don't want to listen to that shit, and I do not blame you a bit if you don't.
Yeah,
I don't even enjoy talking about it. If you
Oh,
don't want to listen to it, in the description of the video, there are always timestamps that had like where every time we talk about a new team or a new topic, whatever the case may be, we timestamp it so you can, skip around wherever you want to be. So all you got to do, if you want to listen to the show, but you just don't want to have to hear that shit, just go down to the timestamp and we'll be talking about the Browns right before the Steelers. So just click on the Steelers one, you'll be able to zoom right past it. So if you wanna hear our thoughts on the AFC North, but you just don't, rather it's triggering to you or whatever the case may be.
We use the word triggered on this show.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing now.
That's
Everybody's
the
triggered
term,
about
man.
everything. But if that bothers you, just if you're on YouTube, jump down in the description and just skip right over it, and and hang with us and listen through the stuff that's a lot more fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So
I will probably not say a whole lot on the whole Deshaun Watson thing.
I don't know, man. Like, I think it's a tough subject to cover, and I get that, not everybody's gonna want, because a lot of us, like including myself, like we look to football as an escape. We look to football as an escape for the everyday life, the everyday struggles, politics, inflation, this, that. I mean, whatever. We look to football as an escape and a place to like comfort us from all the struggles of the everyday life. But when it is something like this, man, like it's tough not to talk about it because it needs to be talked about, man. Like there's 30 women that need their stories told, and or upwards of 30 women that need their stories told, and I think that's a big part of, for one, like being a man, like just being like in general, like just being a man is like just listening and letting these women tell their stories, and whether you accept it or not. Whether you accept, like, hey, like, could it be for money? Yes. Could it not be? Could it be real? Yes. It's a discussion that needs to be had, and it's a discussion that we'll take part in, but it's not going to overtake the show. That's what I want to get across. It's like we're not going to overtake the show. The discussion will be had, but we got so much more great things to talk about.
This is a fun division.
Fun. Yeah, man, we have so much more fun things to talk about in this division, and I don't want just one person's actions to be the focus of an entire show. So, yeah. So I'm ready to get to it. So let's go ahead, give you, of course, how everything finished out last year. This was a division last year that we were completely wrong on.
Yeah.
Dude, it was wild. So I believe we almost had it in reverse. We had, I know, like for us, like a lot, like me and Drew, we were really big on the Browns last year.
Mm-hmm.
They finished third.
And Baltimore.
Yeah. So like the teams that finished up in the
last
place, like we were all about the Steelers.
I picked Baltimore to win the division.
Now I will put the caveat in there that we did say the Bengals were on the rise, and they were probably about a year away from taking that next step. So they took the step a year early than what we expected, but we didn't.
It was one hell of a step too. Like,
yeah, bro, yeah, no shit, bro. I loved it, especially like that divisional round, like with the Bengals. I was all about it.
I'm sure you were.
I believe Drew was like the first person I called. It was either I've called you two as soon as that game ended, actually. They can account for I would just say like a joyous reaction from me whenever the Bengals advanced in the divisional round. By the way, if you did not know, they played the Titans in the divisional round, so I just want to put that out. So they beat the Titans in the divisional round. So I just want to throw that out there. If you weren't aware of what that meant with the divisional round, yeah, the Titans lost in their first playoff game. They didn't win a single playoff game. Similar to the Colts. They didn't win a single game in the playoffs. So the Cincinnati Bengals finished first, followed up by the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns in third place, and the Baltimore Ravens. Somehow, with all the injuries, they brought up the rear. But we're talking about before the season even started, man. Like they were down to like their fourth string, fifth string running back, like third string cornerback. I mean, that was crazy. Lamar missed about half the year as well.
Yep.
It was a rough year for the Ravens, but I mean, I'm excited to talk about them. So let's get into the fourth place team, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. They finished 8-9. Somehow, like I said, despite themselves, it was a rough year injury wise for them, but they made some additions. They had some losses. So Marcus Williams coming over from the Saints, that's kind of like their big addition. They re-signed Calais Campbell, Justin Houston, those type of guys. They did lose Bradley Bozeman, and they did lose Deshaun Elliott, which of course was supplanted with Marcus Williams. The big news is they traded Hollywood Brown during the draft to Arizona. So now Rashad Bateman, the first round wide receiver, takes over, coming into the year as the wide receiver one. Obviously, they have Mark Andrews, aka a top 3 tight end in fantasy football, one of the best tight ends in the league.
True.
A better tight end, a better true tight end than Kyle Pitts is because he's a wide receiver. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts because now I believe just today they activated. Did they activate the running back there, J.K. Dobbins, today?
Yeah, they activated Dobbins yesterday, I think.
And then they also came out and said, I think it would be a stretch to say Gus Edwards plays week 1.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like it's going to be J.K. Dobbins, Mike Davis, and rookie Tyler Batty as the running backs.
And they signed Mike Davis, which look, Jared knows all about the Mike Davis disappointment that was last year. Jared's over there chuckling. He knows all about it. But I'm curious to hear you guys. So Lamar's healthy. He's coming into the year. Contract year, by the way. He's his own agent, so he's looking to prove himself. I don't think he really has to prove himself, honestly, for being honest. But yeah, I mean, that give that
depends
guy.
on who you ask. 'Cause for whatever reason, there's still so many people that doubt Lamar. Well, no.
Let's be honest.
So many anonymous sources.
Yeah, look,
doubt
Drew.
Lamar.
It ain't for whatever reason. We know what the reason is.
Yeah,
we know what the reason is.
Yeah, it's a bunch of
something
people
we're not
going
to deep dive into this show, but we know what the reason is.
Yeah. It's a bunch of people that either don't like the color of his skin or they got hardcore take lock from how wrong they are during the NFL draft process, and they just refuse to admit that they were wrong. It's one of those two things.
Yeah, and unfortunately, my boy Bill Polian is one of those guys. Hall of Fame Colts GM. Tough look, boy. Tough luck.
Like that one dude. What was that one anonymous quote that was like he could win 12 MVPs and I still
wouldn't have him as a quarterback.
Yeah, like okay, so he's going to shatter basically every quarterback record
of all time.
Be the most
dominant player in
dominant
NFL
quarterback in NFL history, and you're like, no, he's still not good enough.
He's the most dominant player in NFL history.
Yeah, like that's the type of stupid ass uphill battle that Lamar's dealing with. That no other quarterback, like Aaron Rodgers, doesn't have to fight that uphill battle. Tom Brady doesn't have to fight that uphill battle.
Oh no! According to Patrick Mahomes, he has to fight that uphill battle. There was
literally a
scout that
anonymous source that said he was a one-read quarterback. Like just this offseason, he said he was a one-read quarterback. Like they're not like Derek Carr don't even get that fucking treatment.
So see, how did these guys become anonymous scouts? And I'm still working a 9 to 5. Like
I tell you when they need to.
Why can't I can be a scout. Look, Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback 1. Lamar Jackson is a quarterback 1. I'm better at scouting than the anonymous scouts
already.
How about that?
You're already better.
Yeah, right off the bat.
At the end of the day, what they need to do, anonymous doesn't need to be a thing anymore.
Yeah, man. If you're gonna make a take like that,
say that shit,
bro. Yeah, dude. If you're gonna put that type of bullshit out there, say it.
Yeah, you got to put your name on that kind of crazy shit. You can't just be saying like. And I know the reporters will take it because an anonymous quote like that's going to generate clicks. So I know reporters are like, I don't care if it's anonymous or not. But I wish that they would just all like put their foot down and say, "Fuck it, you got to put your name on it if you want it to be out there." Like guys shouldn't be.
I mean, I get it because like as somebody that went to like I have a journalism degree, so I have a broadcast journalism degree from. And I mean, like I get it from a source's standpoint.
Oh yeah, I understand.
You can't burn that bridge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, like I agree with you. Like if you're gonna come out with some shit like that as a scout, put your name. Like I mean,
I need to know which teams. Like if you're a scout, I need to know which team you're a scout for, so that way I can know which players that your team drafted based on your opinion, so I can know which guys are like surefire bust. Because like if
Titans.
the person that said that's like if
Uh-huh.
the person that said that is like the DB's coach for Jacksonville, now I know that every DB that rolls into Jacksonville is going to be completely garbage. Because you clearly have no
That's
connection,
a
like actual connection with football. So like just
that's a
make
Titans
us
DB
all
scout.
smarter, make us all smarter people by letting us know what you do for a living, so that we know what not to trust. And that's all I'm asking. Like it just helps us. That's all. We're all better for it. Put your name on your stupid take so that we can make smarter decisions.
Look, because us three here, we put our names on our stupid takes every episode.
Every single one of them.
We ate
Every
crow
episode.
last year in this division too.
We
All
sure
three of
did.
us.
We sure
Yeah,
did. Hey, and look, I was happy to eat crow in this division. I'll tell you what.
absolutely.
So let's get into this division. So Baltimore Ravens, like we said, they traded Hollywood Brown. Rashad Bateman takes over. J.K. Dobbins is activated today. Gus Edwards probably isn't going to start, but they did sign Mike Davis as well. This is a team that loves to run the ball. Lamar is fully healthy. Pretty much all their team outside of is healthy going into camp.
Yeah.
How do you guys view the Ravens in this division? How do you view the Ravens overall? And do you? I mean, I'm not even going to ask you if you think Lamar is that quarterback, because like it's the same stuff I heard with Peyton Manning, where it's like, well, he can't win in the playoffs. He can't win in the playoffs. Lamar is fine. Lamar is fine.
He won a playoff game.
Didn't he win a playoff game?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
he
Yeah.
did.
So I mean, like he might
Well,
not
I
have
mean,
taken him
yeah,
to the
but they're
Super Bowl
saying,
yet,
they're the best team during the regular season, but they can't ever make the Super Bowl.
I mean, there's a
And it's
lot.
always Lamar's fault, which is it's never all on the quarterback. And I'm going to stick up. If you're a listener to this show, I'm going to do whatever I can to stick up for a quarterback. That's
and it's
just the reality of it.
it's rightfully like I mean, and more
Yeah,
often than not, you're right on
I'm always
that.
gonna people like normal like people don't really realize how difficult it is to be an NFL quarterback. Like
If it
I
was
mean,
easy, they wouldn't have so much fucking trouble finding one per team that's good enough to like an actual starting level quarterback. Like we can't even field a full league full of starters. Like there's how many people on this planet and we can't find 32 legitimate starting quarterbacks? Like yeah, this shit's hard, man. It's
man.
crazy.
Well, it's not only that, but like so I mean like so if you didn't know, so as a quarterback in the NFL, you have like what 15 seconds, generally for the offensive coordinator or head coach.
Yeah, the mic cuts off at 15
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah. So Mike cuts off 50 seconds, and you have plays like green right, X shift, Viper right, 382, X right.
And that's probably one of the more simple ones.
And that's an extremely simple one. Like that's
Yeah.
one I can pull off the top of my head. And you have to make sure every guy knows his role in that exact play. And that, I mean, we're talking about that's bare minimum play call. I mean, you have play calls that go 2-3 minutes long if you really want to get into
You
it.
got pre-snap
But, I mean,
diagnosis.
like I said,
diagnosis.
I could really give you a really long one, but I don't want to take up like 1.5-2 minutes of this podcast for that. But I mean, like, so you're responsible for every single player in that play call. You're responsible for you're getting that to your guys, and that's not even pass protection. That's just the wide receivers, tight ends, running backs. Then you get to the line, you have 3 or 4 audibles in your head, where you have 3 or 4 other play calls on top of that one where you're looking at, and Lamar does that shit at an elite level, like elite MVP level. I'm excited
And
for
guess
Lamar
what?
this year.
He can throw the football despite
He
what a bunch
can.
of people,
I
for
believe-
whatever reason,
Yeah, I believe
think.
he ranked number 1 in a lot of like pocket passer stats this year. By
And
the
not
way,
only
before he
pocket
got hurt.
passer stats, we're talking about stats targeting the outside receiver. So he's throwing it like this ain't no layup across the middle of the field shit, nothing like that. Like you're talking about targeting guys outside the numbers. He was number 1 in efficiency damn near across the board. Like Lamar's legit, man. And you want to talk about how we feel about him with how good he is. The fact that the Ravens are playing a 4th place schedule this year because they did finish in last year, and this being a contract year, he's going to be. I don't know if I'll end up picking him for it because I've kind of got my heart set on Herbert, but he's going to be heavily into consideration for me of winning MVP this year. Like I think he's going to remind people that he's still that guy. Like there's a lot of people in the league that you're just not that guy, pal. But Lamar is though.
You're not that guy, pal.
Lamar is him. He's him. And so like with this team, like this is one of the obvious picks for me of a team to go worst to first. Like I mean, spoiler alert, we're going to be picking the division at the end of the episode, but I mean, on paper, having Lamar back healthy, having a running game again, a solid offensive line still. They got rookie Tyler Linderbaum coming in. And I love Rashad Bateman. I'm really not that worried about the Hollywood Brown being traded. Like I think Bateman can easily step in and fill his shoes and then some. And then they still got plenty of studs on the defensive side of the ball. That secondary is unreal with Marlon Humphrey and Marcus
So
Peters and
nasty,
Kyler
bro.
Fuller. Like
Marcus
Humphrey,
Williams,
Peters,
too. They
and
brought in
Kyler
Marcus
Fuller.
Williams.
Yeah, yeah.
Disgusting.
And then they drafted Kyle Hamilton to go with Marcus Williams. And then you got Adolphe Owe, who was one of my favorite pass rushers in the class a couple of years ago.
Not the best pass rusher, but
not the best, but he was one of my favorites, though.
Quiddy pay.
But like the defense has got so many good pieces. The offense looks like they're back healthy, and they get to play a fourth place schedule. So I think there's a lot to like about Baltimore this year, and they're one of the teams that I'm most excited about to watch this year. Like I really don't want to miss very many Ravens games this year.
Well, they're always super fun to watch just because of Lamar. I'm excited to see J.K. Dobbins. I really am. Like it seems like he's been, he had his big rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
And
man, they got snake bit last year.
Yeah, they got snake bit there. He got hurt, and it's a weird position, because normally like there was something that came out today. I saw that ACL tears with running backs. It usually year 2 is the most productive year after the ACL tear. Wide receivers, year 1 is the most productive year after the ACL tear.
Yep.
Year 2 is a drop off. So I mean that's just weird to think about.
Yeah, I saw that this afternoon.
But regardless, I think we're all projected. I think if J.K. Dobbins is healthy, he's an absolute game changer in that offense. We saw it year 1 with Mark Ingram, and him split carries. So super excited to watch that. I think this is the year for the Ravens to. This is kind of their window because they still have Lamar on that rookie deal. They're gonna have to pay him. They better pay him.
They're
a lot of money. And as we know, once you pay that quarterback that $45-50 million that they're going for right now, it severely hinders your team's ability to build around them. So I think
it's a lot more difficult to build a championship.
I think this is the year for the Ravens to really make that leap. As long as health permits. Now we get on to the team that finished in 3rd place. And like we said at the beginning of the video, this is a little bit of a caveat here. We do want to let you know there are some triggering things we're going to talk about during this section and stuff like that. But we're not going to make this totally about one guy. There's a lot more stuff that happened.
If you don't want to hear about Deshaun Watson, just skip forward a couple minutes.
Yeah, it's only going to be a few minutes here. So the big news with the Cleveland Browns here. So they did lose Baker Mayfield. They did lose Jarvis Landry. They did lose J.C. Treader. They did bring in Amari Cooper from the Cowboys, which was a huge trade. For only a 5th round pick too, which is just wild considering what wide receivers ended up going for around the time of the draft and stuff. With Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown got traded away from the Titans. If you didn't know, he is no longer a Tennessee Titan. Awesome. And they did bring in quarterback Deshaun Watson from the Cleveland Browns. So I want to get this shit out of the way. I want to talk about it real quick for a couple minutes, and I just want to be done with it. The Deshaun Watson stuff, suspended 6 games or recommended suspension for 6 games, was appealed by the NFL. Seems like they're going for a full year or at least 12 games from what I've read.
Good for them too.
I agree. This is, you're talking about so when Big, I hate to bring this shit up. So when Big Ben came out with the whole sexual assault thing that happened with him, years and years ago, I always said, look, if it's one person, it's just kind of like, you don't know. If it's 2 people with the exact same story that aren't connected at all, there's a high likelihood that something probably happened. Bro, I'll tell you right now, if there's 24 to 30 women not connected at all, or at least not connected in the most part, because a lot of them worked at the same massage parlor. Man, there's something there. Like something's wrong. And the fact that you went to 60 different masseuses within a year and a half.
Whenever you got a team masseuse.
Whenever you have dude. I mean, I went to the same place for massages, the exact same people. And it's like one or two people at most. And if those people are not there, guess what happens? I fucking cancel and I wait until they're there. Like if they're on vacation, I don't go. I only have 1 to 2 people that work on me on a weekly basis. And I go every week. I get a massage every week. It's the same 2 people. And it's been
All
the
you have to
same.
do is buy one of these, man.
And it's, oh yeah, no shit. But and I know I'm not an NFL player, but I mean I have a pretty like strenuous job. Like I do roofing, or not like roofing, but I do like roof work. I run cable through buildings. I'm like a private contractor. So I mean like I do a pretty strenuous job. And so I do a lot of driving, I do a lot of roof work, I do a lot of, cable running and stuff like that. So I like to get massages once a week to keep my body loose on top of, lifting weights and stuff. I've had the same, only 2 people have touched me in the last 3 years. You have 60 plus people from the quarterback position. It's just unreal to me that people actually defend this guy. That's just crazy to me. It's crazy, and it's wrong. And I applaud the NFL for making the right decision in the case. I hope that they get what they're after, honestly. And I hope that Sean Watson, if it was up to me, Sean Watson wouldn't play another down in the NFL. And the fact that the Cleveland Browns structured the contract to minimize the losses for suspension is even gross. Like it's even more gross.
That's the nasty. That's like the. I mean, other than the actual assault that happened, that's the nastiest part to me.
Yeah, disgusting.
It's a stain on the whole franchise, man. Like it
absolutely.
Like they went from the team that they're kind of like the Cubs in a lot of ways, like lovable losers, and then they started having a little success. And I think they're trying, obviously like that fan base is deserving of a competitive team, like the true fans of the Cleveland Browns, but at what risk? Like I'm not like a Browns fan, but at the same time, like that's not a situation, whether or not, all of it is.
Well, they alienate.
I'd almost be ashamed.
Yeah. Well, I'm not almost. I would be ashamed if I was a Browns fan.
You gotta think of the women that
exactly.
that work for that organization or have been lifelong fans of that organization. Like if you're a female that's been a fan of the Browns like your entire life, how do you not feel disrespected as hell that they're just like, we don't really care about all this shit that's going on? He makes us a better team. It makes us like, because the football reality side of it is, it's a Deshaun Watson when he's on the field.
He's a top
the Browns
quarterback.
A much better team. He is a elite quarterback. He is the
borderline top 5.
Yeah, he's one of the best of the best. And now, granted, it's been it's been a while since we've seen him on the field, but assuming he is what he used to be, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And so it's like they're just like, hey, off field stuff be damned. We're gonna go grab this guy and put him on the field and try to get a better winning product, which. If it's some small accusations, if it's 1 or 2, whatever, like I get it, but I don't know. And the timing of the trade too, like in the thick of all that, with everything going on, you still pull the trigger and give this dude the most guaranteed money of anybody in NFL history, and then you backload it to where he's only getting paid $1 million this year because a suspension's coming. Like this dude's so innocent, but yet they structured the contract knowing that he was going to get a suspension. And they talked about how we're going to fight this to the end because we're innocent. There's no need to settle. And then immediately settlement. It's just like, I'm far from perfect. I'm not here to just sit here and judge somebody else. I haven't been more. No, nobody is. I just want to make it clear. Like I'm not. This isn't any like holier than the next person type shit. Nothing like that. It's just it sucks that this is such a it's not even that surprising of a thing for the NFL. That's the part that kind of sucks.
That's what sucks. Which I think is kind of like why they're going after what they're going after, because they know they have an image problem in this. But to me, I think it boils down to like, especially with like YouTube, because I've got a fiance that I love very much, and I couldn't imagine something like that happening. But with both of you, you have very, very young daughters in your life. And so, like, to me, it's almost like, how do you justify it as like a father or a stepfather or a guardian of a young girl coming up in this world where you see like that type of activity is okay, and how do you explain to them that what happens to them doesn't matter as long as the guy wins games,
Yeah, as long as
Well,
you're good enough at whatever
as
it is,
long as you're good enough at whatever you do,
or you're rich enough,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
you
And,
I
can
and
think it
pretty much
depends
get away
on
with anything.
honestly, like
that's the
that's
problem
a
I
tough
have.
one, man. That depends
problem.
on the age of the kid and everything too. Like Jaden and I, like her daughter, and like it's like a daughter to me too. She's at an age where she's still too young for us to talk about that. But
Well, I think
as
Drew's
a
is
whole,
too.
like
But I
it's
meant like as like a man when you see that. Like I'm talking about like from like your perspective when you see that
well,
happen. Like it would almost like enrage me as a fan of football.
it's not easy. And the NFL, like not to go too far off the deep end here. I don't want to get into like a whole lot of feelings on things, but at the same time, the NFL's policy procedures they're not good. You got people, like this allegation. You had Greg Hardy not too long ago. Is
Remember
countless.
Kareem Hunt on the
Even
same team?
and look, the Ray Lewis thing back in the Super Bowl. Like to me, like those are much bigger things than a guy gambling on himself in pro football, or even a wide receiver that likes marijuana. Like these are the guys that are like getting completely kicked out of the league.
Yeah,
And
and I'd read something on that was like different part of the of like different policies relate to different things, and there's different set suspensions for different rules that are broken and stuff like that. And it's like like for whatever reason, gambling on an NFL game apparently carries a tougher suspension than the I forget the it's something misconduct. I forget the technical term for it, but essentially Calvin Ridley was set up to be suspended longer because of the parameters that are set up, which is just and somebody was trying to use that on the internet to justify the suspensions, and it's not. All that does is just show you how fucked up the system is. Like that's not a
yeah,
justifiable reason to explain
Yeah.
why Calvin Ridley. That might be the technical answer, but it's not. That's not something you can back up your argument with or anything like that. Like it just shows you that at the
Yeah,
core, that
and
whole
if you
thing
try
is
to back
fucked.
look, and I'll say this too, and like if you get offended by this, I don't care. If you try to back up an argument with something like that, all I can really say, like, fuck off. Like that's all I can really say to that. Just fuck off.
yeah.
And I don't have a problem if I lose followers. I don't care if I lose, we lose subscriptions to that.
Nah.
I mean,
I
it
don't
is
think
what it
that's
is.
the case,
It is
man.
what it
I
is.
think
But look,
anybody that has like like you
it's
don't have to, as long as you have somewhat of morals. I mean, at the end of the day, like, and no one's perfect. God knows I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. But there's just certain things that, as a man, that you're taught at a young age that you just don't do. And and for a league as big as the NFL, I mean, Goodell gets a lot
Look, man,
of flack, but I mean, he's doing the right thing in this
he's doing
situation.
the right thing here. And at the end of the day, look,
And
like you
it's
said,
it's an
there's things that you're taught, and one of those things you're taught as a man is no means no.
right.
And if the word no is uttered, it shit ends right there. That's where it ends. 100%. No ifs, ands, buts about it. No means no. So, like I said, I didn't want to turn this into like a huge thing about this because we do have a team aspect to talk about here. This is still a very talented team. They did make the move for Amari Cooper. Jacoby Brissett is the backup quarterback, and there's a very strong bet. Hopefully Calvin really doesn't take it because that's another year for him. But there's a strong bet that Jacoby Brissett is going to be the starting quarterback at least for half the year, maybe more than that. If that is the case, because I'm going into this prediction saying Deshaun Watson will probably be suspended at least for some time. If that is the case, as talented as a team as this is, how do you see them playing in this division and staying afloat with Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback?
I mean, the shitty part is like let's assume the 6-game suspension sticks. Here's their 6 games: Carolina Panthers, New York Jets, Pittsburgh Steelers, Atlanta Falcons, Los Angeles Chargers, New England Patriots.
They could
There's
win 4 out of those 6 games.
there's some winnable games in there, and I think they're currently favored in like half of those games.
Yeah, I'd probably say 500.
Even knowing that Deshaun Watson is going to be out, because the Browns are a talented roster. So I mean, teams.
Well, I
teams
mean, they
like
play a third place schedule.
Yeah,
That's
so I mean,
that's
teams like the Falcons and the Jets, like even without Watson,
the Panthers.
they could very well win those games. So it's if the 6 games thing sticks, they could still realistically have a shot at winning the damn division by the time Watson gets back.
Yeah,
So
I will say one thing though. I think we all agree. Personal things aside, Deshaun Watson's a great quarterback.
yeah,
But he's not played in it'll be a year and a half almost since he's taken
we don't know. And
there's
not only
gonna be
that, but he played really, really good that season. They won 4 games.
yeah. I mean, they might
he's
not
on a
win
much
single
more
game
talented
if-
team now, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, he is.
The team
But at
he's
the
on
same
now
time,
might
like,
win 4 out of those 6
sometimes that
games.
doesn't,
Misses.
sometimes that doesn't translate to winning football games.
No,
And
but honestly, I think the Texans might have
Browns
won
fans are going to
that
hate
year.
this shit, but like, look, I hope it doesn't translate to winning football games. I hope it doesn't if he does play down.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to root for that type of move to be rewarded.
Agreed.
So I get that, but I mean, they still have one of the best run games in the league. They've got the best running back tandem with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, at least at the moment, assuming Hunt doesn't get traded, which I don't think he will.
Nah.
They've still got a solid offensive line. I mean, behind Amari Cooper, there's definitely some room for improvement in the wide receiver position. Donovan Peoples-Jones has shown flashes. David Bell, had a lot of good tape, but had a really poor combine as a rookie coming in. They paid David Njoku, expecting him to make the leap. So, and I mean, he's got all the athletic ability in the world to do so. It's just a matter of it happening. And I do think Harrison Bryant, another young tight end, I think he's got talent, and so I think you might see a little bit of him on the field as well, with them running 2 tight end sets, and then bringing back on the defensive side of the ball, bringing back Clowney, having him and Myles Garrett. That's still a really strong tandem, and then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, another year at linebacker.
Yeah.
That dude's a stud.
We love JOK here.
We do. Big fans. He was a steal in the second round of the draft last year, and then Denzel Ward, a stud corner. Greg Newsome II was a great pick. You got Greedy Williams coming in. Safety tandem with John Johnson and Grant Delpit. Like, this team's got talent, man. I mean, you're talking about like there's not a lot going on the interior of the defensive line, in my opinion. And there's not a lot going on at wide receiver outside of Amari Cooper. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot of holes on this roster once you plug Deshaun Watson in at quarterback. Like, this is a legit team that's going to be a tough out every week once Watson gets back, assuming he's the same Deshaun Watson we're used to seeing. They're going to be tough, and they got a pretty easy schedule to start the year. So if the 6-game suspension sticks, it's not necessarily going to sink their season, in my opinion.
Right. Well, look, we have 2 other teams to talk about here, and like we said, if you do want to skip past that part, we completely understand. So if you're joining us from the
welcome back,
from the Baltimore Ravens coming into now the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you wanted to skip the Browns part, welcome to the rest of the division preview. And we're gonna hit the Pittsburgh Steelers here. So obviously the big loss, Big Ben's finally gone. He retired. I don't know if you call that a big loss, but I think for franchise, for Steelers fans, that is a big loss for them. Big Ben's been their quarterback since 2004, 2005, around that area. And, anytime you have that long of a run as the quarterback of a team, that's a loss on the franchise. Also lost Juju Smith-Schuster going to Kansas City. Trey Turner and Joe Hayden is now gone. And they did add Mitch Trubisky, drafted Kenny Pickett, of course, the only quarterback drafted in the first 2 rounds, actually, if we're going to be specific about that. James Daniels and Larry Ogunjobi and Miles Jack coming over from Jacksonville, which I think was a big signing for them as well. That defense is absolutely loaded to the gills. Once again, ready to go. The wide receiver room is really good. Kenny Pickett, we'll see what happens with quarterback there, because they brought in Kenny Pickett, have Mitch Trubisky, but also Mason Rudolph has been, showing up here in camp as well. George Pickens has been dominating camp.
That dude's a dog.
Yeah, he's so good. Also Deontay Johnson, Pat Fryermuth, Najee Harris is still there. So the defense is loaded. They have some great weapons.
Yeah.
The big question mark is at quarterback, and the offensive line is still a massive question mark for them.
And corner for me, I think corner is another question mark.
Yeah, corner could definitely be one as well. But I think
outside of that, their defense is pretty solid.
Yeah, but I was gonna say I think the additions of like the linebacker room and obviously the pass rush they have there, especially with TJ Watt, it makes playing cornerback a lot easier.
Very true.
But
you still have Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin never had a losing record as a head coach.
Nope.
Question is for you guys, who do you think would be the best quarterback to keep that streak intact? And if they do decide to go that way, do you see Mike Tomlin suffering his first losing season as a head coach?
Personally, I hope Trubisky is week 1 starter. That's me personally, and it might be for fantasy reasons too. But I think he.
Well, we've never hit it. It's always for money reasons on the show.
Right.
we've never hit that.
I think. I don't know. Kenny Pickens, I'm not 100% sold on. I think there's definitely potential there, but I think Trubisky, if they let him play his style at quarterback, I think it fits the team. They're definitely a defensive team. They want to run the football. Najee Harris had over 300 touches last year, which is insane. I don't know if he'll have that same kind of workload, but everybody's like Trubisky's not that great. If he goes back to the style he was before, he was Nagy down basically at head coach, then they could be a surprising team, man. They've got coaching, they've got defense. They play in a division that's very run heavy for the most part outside of Cincinnati. I don't know, man. I think the Steelers they're a contender in this division. They're not my favorite, spoiler, but and they may not win 9 games, but I think they'll go 8 I think they'll go 9-8. I think they'll finish over 500.
Yeah, I wish I could say I was as bullish, but I am not. I think this is the year Mike Tomlin has a losing season. I don't think either one of these quarterbacks is the answer. I do think Mitch Trubisky is the better right now option, just because it's tough sledding for rookies coming into this league, especially. We're not even talking about like a Trevor Lawrence caliber rookie or anything like that. And granted, the situation and coaching that Kenny Pickett is coming into is much, much better than Trevor Lawrence did. But I don't see it. But I think Mitch Trubisky would be the better option, just because the offensive line is still pretty damn bad. And you're going to need somebody that can run for their life, because they're going to be doing that. And so I think Trubisky's it's not like Pickett's a statue or anything, but I do think Trubisky is a little bit better on his feet.
Well, you didn't know he does have small hands.
Yeah. In case you didn't know.
Didn't Russell Wilson have small hands? Was that the knock?
Like for real. Which, I mean, to be fair, I have pretty big hands, but my hands are bigger than Kenny Pickett's, which is wild to me. My hand, I think his hands are what was it, 10 and an eighth or something like that, and mine are a little bit over 10 and a half.
So essentially, the Steelers should have just called you and had you come play quarterback.
They should, man.
That's all that really matters.
I mean,
refrigerator. I didn't need you to play quarterback for the Steelers.
You would have won less money with me as the quarterback of the Steelers than you would have had me fix your refrigerator.
Exactly. Yeah. All about profit.
To be fair, though, I do know play calls. I can call plays, and I have big hands. So
that's half the battle.
Hey, yeah, and I'm a little bit mobile too. I still got my legs on me. So.
But I mean, I like the pieces on offense. Najee's a great running back. Deontay, Claypool, Pickens, all solid receivers. Pat Fryermuth is looked really good in his rookie year. The pieces are there. I don't believe in any of the quarterbacks on the roster, and the offensive line sucks. So it's just it's tough to paint a pretty picture for this team. And it won't be pretty. Everybody
All their
talks about
wins.
They win ugly.
everybody
win
talks about
ugly,
addition by subtraction with Big Ben being gone, and I don't think it's all that much better. Like I understand how
Yeah,
bad Big
I
Ben
don't.
was last
Yeah,
year, but like
I don't see the path upwards for them. And then, like Jerry said, I think it's win ugly. Like I'm talking about, like we've got to have Mike Tomlin trip at least like 3 guys in like 3 different games.
right. Yeah. Did you see him talk about that on
I did.
on the pod? Like Mike Tomlin's such a cool dude,
Oh, I
man.
love
Like
it,
I
man.
could listen to him talk
Yeah, he's so
forever.
awesome.
He's the second best coach in football, man.
Yeah, and he's the best thing about
It's
this
hard to
team.
argue that. It's hard to argue that, honestly.
No, yeah, I don't
I think
there is much
Belichick and
to argue.
Andy Reid. I think they might have a little bit of an argument, but I think there's no doubt he's up there. I mean, I don't know. Like Drew said, like I have serious, and these aren't like small parts of the roster. These are major parts of the roster. And I could even overlook the offensive line a little bit if they were even like a little bit below average, but like they're like very below average. And I just don't trust the quarter. I think we both had Kenny Pickett rated like 4th or 5th in our draft rankings.
Yeah, I
And
think he
ended up
was.
going-
I think he was 3rd for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was the first
I've
quarterback
seen
off the
enough
board.
Mason Rudolph to know he's not.
And this was a
Right.
bad, and this was a bad quarterback class. Like, let's not.
Yeah, a bunch of teams needed quarterbacks, and only one team took a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Like,
That's a lot right there.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think we had any like high ambition for like any of these quarterbacks other than like I know we both like Desmond Ritter. I did like Matt Corral a little bit as well. Not a huge Corral fan, but I did like him. But I mean, this wasn't a great quarterback class by any means. So I mean, I know what look, Trubisky looked really good for the Bills last year with Brian Daboll calling plays, and in that preseason, especially the preseason game against the Bears, like we had a Trubisky revenge game.
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, super fun to watch there in the preseason. So we'll see if that translates, but there's been no good news coming out of camp for any of these quarterbacks. So I have a tough time seeing them like perform up to par as opposed to like what their normal range is at this year. So it's gonna be tough. But now look, we also have another team here in the division. So we've talked about the Ravens, we've talked about the Browns, talked about the Steelers. Let's get into the team that won the division last year, a team we had finishing last and possibly making that leap that they had last year this year. I don't think anybody would have said they would have made the Super Bowl, but the Cincinnati Bengals, now 10-7, won the division, made the Super Bowl, damn near came close to winning the Super Bowl, took them down to the wire. Very tough game.
Had a lead.
Yeah, very tough game. I know Drew was excited that they didn't win the Super Bowl, but
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so we have a lot of people are really down on this team now coming into this year, and
they only got better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To me, they only got better, and it's weird to think because I think people thought like they overachieved so much last year. They see them coming back to earth this year, and
overachieving, making the Super Bowl is not overachieving. You're a good team at that point.
Yeah,
like I mean, there's some luck involved in it, but in the same time, man, they beat some good teams to get there, and they played extremely tough against the Rams.
Well, they beat a pretty shitty 1 seed.
I knew that was coming as soon as he said they beat some good teams. Like, oh, Landon's got that one teed up.
They went to Arrowhead and won.
You can't give me that one.
They went to Arrowhead and won.
Yeah, that was the game.
That's a tough team.
Like I even still somewhat had my doubts, even after they beat the Titans. I was still like, man, are they?
I picked them to lose every game in the postseason.
Yeah, Jared picked them to lose every game. I believe there was only one host on the show last year that picked them to win the divisional reign.
You would have picked the Jags to beat the Titans if they somehow made the playoffs.
I would have picked the Jets to beat the Titans if they would have made the playoffs. And you know what? The Jets did beat the Titans. They did.
The Jets did also beat the Titans.
Yes, I just wanted to put that out there.
But yeah, that Chiefs playoff game was the game for me that I watched that and I was like, okay, yeah, like this isn't some like weird luck scenario where everything just broke their way, nothing like that. Like I mean, and there was glimpses of it. Like it's not like it was a perfect regular season.
How do you sack a quarterback 9 times and lose?
That's crazy. Joe Burrow is
Joe
Burrow
Burrow is a
different.
winner.
Yeah, that dude
He's
is
a
just
winner.
he's different, man. And I like
I love it.
I just
So
I don't know.
look,
There was some up and downs last year, but like
there were.
the whole thing, like the whole story of especially the Super Bowl the second half of the Super Bowl, it was put on blast at how
Hey,
terrible that offensive line was.
mhm.
Like they got a little rough with Aaron Donald on the sideline, and for whatever reason pissed that dude off,
Why would you do that? That's
and then he just
stupid.
proceeded to wreck the game from
Correct.
that point
Yep.
on. And then the Bengals watched that and was like, okay, our offensive line sucks. And they went out and turned their biggest weakness into, like, you could literally call it a strength at this point with the
Yeah, so
improvements they've
that's what I
made
was
to the
going to get
offensive
to
line.
here. So they did have some additions and losses that I do want to cover real quick. They did lose Riley Reef, if you can call that a loss, and Larry Ogunjobi. But they did add Lael Collins, Ted Karras, and Alex Kappa over from the Buccaneers. So they really went out and said, look, we clearly have the quarterback that can take us to the promised land. Let's protect him. Let's not let him get sacked. Let's not let him tear his ACL again.
What a concept.
Yeah, incredible. And not to mention, he's on a rookie deal for at least the next 3 years because they're probably going to pick his 5th-year option up. Wild guess.
Most of that team is on rookie deals.
Quarterbacks
Offense.
that perform as well as Burrow typically get extended before it even gets to that point. But they should still have at least another year, maybe 2 years on a rookie.
Oh
deal.
yeah, they'll have at least a couple of years before they go through an extension with him. Which is still the biggest advantage in football, as we saw last year. Elite top 10 quarterback on a rookie deal. Biggest advantage in football. We've said it a million times. That and hashtag never pay running back. And hashtag never pay off-ball linebackers. That's also another one. Which, speaking of, Roquan Smith asked for a trade today. We'll see how that turns out.
Cincinnati was doubted for.
We will talk about on the show later this week. NFC North. We will let you know about that. Cincinnati Bengals. Look, man, they're one big weakness. So their defense, they went out and spent all that money on defense last year. They came through. The defense was a fantastic addition, especially in the playoffs, man. That
oh my
defense
God, yeah, the playoffs, they were so good.
In the playoffs, they were incredible. Outside of the one half of the Kansas City game, that first half, the second half and overtime shut down. Absolutely fantastic defense. Joe Burrow, another year. I know he's dealing with some injury issues and stuff like that, but they don't seem to be major. He'll be okay during camp. Jamar Chase, another year. T. Higgins. I am curious to see what they do at the tight end position. We're losing CJ Uzama there, but
they brought in Hayden Hurst. We'll see how that works
he's
out.
Athletic.
Former first-round pick.
Yeah, he's athletic.
By the way.
Yeah.
I
don't think it'll be that big of a drop from CJ Uzama. Like I don't feel like
man.
they really.
I like CJ Uzama.
I like him too. I don't think that's a big drop in talent or anything. Like I don't think they really miss a step at that point.
Possibly. I think Hayden Hurst is worse than CJ Uzama. Maybe not in the run game, but I think definitely.
But I mean, I feel like at that point we're just debating like suck versus stink.
Yeah, exactly. You're splitting hairs at that point. So that being said,
dangerous offense, man.
Everybody, it seems like everybody's down on the Cincinnati Bengals to come back to earth to, not make this. I mean, I'm not saying like they'll make the Super Bowl, but they're picking them to finish like 3rd or 4th in this division.
That's insane.
How do you guys see the Bengals playing out this year? Because to me, they only got better, and they're only going to get better because their young guys are a year older. They turn their biggest weakness into possibly a strength, and they still have a really good roster, still have a really good defense, and their weapons. I think you could put up their 3 weapons at wide receiver up against any team in the entire NFL.
How got Joe Mixon too?
Yeah, somebody we didn't even talk about, which. If you listen to this podcast, I'm not the biggest Joe Mixon guy, not because I didn't believe in the talent, but because the guy never stays healthy. Well, last year he was healthy. We saw the production. Similar to how CMC and Saquon are being talked about this year, that's how Joe Mixon was talked about last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned my lesson. I'm betting on CMC. I'm betting on Saquon. If you're into fantasy football, by the way, that's a little nugget for you. How do you guys see the Bengals with everybody, or not everybody, but most people taking them to take a step back? How do you see the Bengals performing this year? It's a tough division. So do you think they take a step back, or do you actually think they take a step forward?
Personally, I think they stay about the same. They
Because
upgraded.
they make the Super Bowl?
No. I mean,
Yeah,
10-7 record is about where I see the Bengals this season, because yes, they've improved their roster, but I do believe that division is healthy and better than what it was last year.
They did seem to benefit a lot from the injuries last year,
but they also didn't play anybody in their division in the playoffs, and they ran the table in the AFC. So I mean,
yeah, absolutely. They beat.
I'm done doubting the Bengals. I doubted them last year. Heck, man,
one seed.
I doubted them in the draft. They took a wide receiver in the first round, and like, shame on me. Like, Jamar Chase
beat the 1 seed.
Yeah. The more impressive, they beat Kansas City at Arrowhead in the AFC Championship. Like,
was Kansas City the 1 seed?
No, but they really were the true.
Who was the 1 seed?
The Titans.
Did they win a playoff game?
Mm-mm.
Damn right they didn't. Mm-hmm. All right.
So
Drew, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the Cincinnati Bengals here.
Honestly, my biggest concern with the Bengals is the secondary. The safety room looks really good right now with Jesse Bates and Von Bell.
If he plays, he is holding out right now.
That's exactly the point I'm getting to. So they brought in Dax Hill, the rookie as well. But like, if Jesse Bates, if he does indeed end up getting traded or something like that, that safety room is going to take a hit. Like, Jesse Bates is a stud, and he was a huge reason why their defense looks so good in the postseason. Like, that dude just made big play after big play, and the Bengals need to pay the guy, but we'll see what happens. I know, like, Cincinnati apparently is a weird team to negotiate contracts with. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. And then at the end of the day, they're still depending on fucking Eli Apple. So like,
yeah,
I'm not going to feel good about their secondary as long as that's the case. That's the one piece that really concerns me. I like the front seven for their defense.
Oh, I love their front seven.
So, I mean, like, there's not too much of a concern there. Now that they've shored up the offensive line, I literally have zero concerns about the offense, because if the tight end position was good enough with C.J. Uzomah, it's going to be good enough with Hayden Hurst. And Joe Mixon is still solid. The receivers it's one of the best receiver rooms, if not the best receiver room in the league. And then they've got Joe Burrow, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, I have no concerns with the offense whatsoever. I have really no concerns with the front seven of the defense, but the secondary, especially if Jesse Bates ends up getting traded, is concerning to me. So that's really the only question mark for me with this team. Like, this is a great roster that, even if you're not picking them to win the division, I don't know how you can pick them to, like, take a huge step back or anything like that. I don't see it. I don't see the path for it.
I still think they're playing with house money, because there's people that don't believe in the Bengals, and that's the scary thing when you got a confident guy like Joe Burrow, man. Like, that's
so cool, baby.
That's a scary concept. Like, last year, the Baltimore coach was talking about.
Joe Burrow got weapons like you seen the Facebook video about the woman. It's like, I got greens, beans, tomatoes, potatoes.
Yeah, the Thanksgiving video.
He's like, I got Chase, Lamar, Chase, Boyd, Higgins, Dixon. He's got all kinds of weapons out there. You name it.
Yeah, and the man's actually gonna have time to throw this year. Like,
yeah, he's got a little line in front of him finally.
Fuck around and let Jamar Chase get downfield. Like, go ahead.
You ain't gotta fuck around, because it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
you gonna see it. So look. That being said, we've covered all the teams in the divisions. We're right here at the end of the episode here. I'm curious to see, because, man, this division is tough. Like, it's so tough.
Extremely a good division.
So tough to pick. How do you guys see the division playing out? AFC North 2022. Lock it in. Put it on the board. What are we rolling with here? I know we started with Jared last week, or last episode. We'll start with Drew this episode. What are you thinking, Drew? Give me that AFC North. You know, let me know what's going on.
I'm gonna tell you how tough this one is for me. I think
Yeah.
this division could literally come down. The Ravens and the Bengals play each other the last week of the regular season, and I am fully locked in that,
Raiders
that
Chargers style.
this whole division could come down to that last game. That's so I'm operating just like a caveat. I'm operating under the assumption that the 6-game suspension for Watson sticks. If that's the case,
I think it's more
I'm
than that, honestly.
if that's the case, I'm going Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers. If Watson is suspended the entire year, you just flip the Browns and the Steelers. I'd have the
Crazy to
Steelers
think the
finishing
Steelers
third.
finishing last.
I know. I'd have the
Crazy.
Steelers finishing third and the Browns finishing last if Watson's out for the year, or really just anything beyond like 8, 9 games. So I think at that point I would make the flip. But the storyline with this division for me is it's the Ravens and it's the Bengals. And I really struggled with this choice because like I don't expect the Bengals necessarily to take a step back, but I think this fully healthy Ravens team, and I'm a huge Lamar believer. I think that I think there's that's a team that's really ready to remind people how good they are. And not that the Bengals are lacking any type of motivation or anything like that. But I think it's going to be a division race that comes down to the wire. This was up to this point of us doing these shows. This was the hardest one for me to pick. But I ended up landing on the Ravens finishing second and the Bengals, the Ravens finishing first, Bengals finishing second, but they will both end up being playoff teams.
Well, I'm gonna give you mine real quick before Big Jerry closes it out. I said last year, look, the Bengals are a year away from taking this division. They obviously proved me wrong last year. They gonna prove me wrong this year because this is the year I think they take. They. I'm not gonna say take that leap because
They just
you
like
can't
take
say
the reins.
yeah, like you can't say take that leap about a team that made the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
But I think this is whenever they like, look, we're for real. Like last year wasn't a fluke. This is for real. I think the Ravens are going to be a tough out. Like I do. As long as they stay healthy, they're not going away. I still have the Bengals winning this division. As long as Joe Burrow's healthy, as long as because we go into these picks, we're assuming every team is healthy except the Browns. We assume that suspension's coming. And I think it's going to be longer than 6 games. I've got Cincinnati Bengals winning the division, finishing with the Ravens in second, and I think both teams make the playoffs, by the way. So if you're a Ravens fan and you're sitting here and you're like, man, like I can't believe you picked us to lose the division, you're still going to make the playoffs. You're still going to be just fine. Love Lamar Jackson. Love your team. Love your coaching staff. Love everything about your team. I just think the Ravens, man, like I don't know if they have the firepower to stick up with what the Bengals have on offense. Like, I mean, and I love Rashad Bateman, but
there's not very many teams in the league.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I think the firepower there, like Jared said, Joe Burrow, like for whatever reason, he is almost like the new Tom Brady, where it's like he just has this like thing that just like for whatever reason
motivated by
like things just work out in his favor. I think the Bengals win the division, followed by the Ravens. Then I've got the Steelers, and then I have the Cleveland Browns finishing fourth because I think Deshaun Watson, that's be closer to 12 games to, the full season than I think it's going to say 6 games.
Yeah, I think they definitely finish last if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, and even if he does play, I don't care if he plays every game this season in good conscience and as a man of integrity, I've got them finishing last regardless, if I'm being honest, because fuck them. Fuck Deshaun Watson. Fuck the Cleveland Browns. Hope y'all finish last. It is what it is. It is what it is. Big Jared, bring us home.
Well, that sounds like the broken record. I mean, it definitely depends on whether or not how many games Watson faces will determine who to 3 and 4. So with that being said, I'm under the impression too. I think it's going to be longer than 6 games as well. So I'll put Cleveland last, and then Pittsburgh in third place. Man, this is brutally tough. So I've got the Bengals in second with Baltimore in first. I had Baltimore to win the division the previous year, and they literally, their entire franchise
Why is it
was.
always y'all two against me? Why is it always, why am I always the lone man over here?
I do think it's going to be hard for me to even say. This is the crazy thing. The Bengals are not going to take a step back. Even it's going to be hard for any team outside of the AFC West to make wild card contention. Like that division is so good. Like this division is right there too.
I don't know, man. I think the Ravens and the Bengals. I think they're both. I think they're better than every team in the AFC West outside of the Chargers. I think they have better roster. I think Kansas City's right there with them. I think they're both better than the Broncos. I do. I think they're both better than the Broncos.
And
which is like a hot take, I guess, if you say it. But like,
I don't even know.
But I think all three of those teams make the playoffs. Which I mean, I know that's kind of like giving you like a spoiler to our full season preview of teams who make the playoffs. But I think the Broncos and the Ravens and like one of the Chiefs and Chargers, whoever doesn't win that division, I think all three of those teams, whichever one, make the playoffs this year.
I think the ultimate tiebreaker too for me picking Baltimore, not only because I feel like they're going to be a lot more healthier than last year, is Cincinnati's going to play first place schedule, and at the end of the day, like I do take that into consideration. I think Cincinnati has the better roster than Baltimore offensively, but at the end of the day, I think Harbaugh is still a better coach. So like, there's a lot of it's brutally tough to pick a winner in that one. Like harder than any other division. I agree with Drew on that too, but I've got Baltimore 1, Cincinnati 2.
Yeah, but see, so here's the thing: they play a first place schedule, but they play the NFC South this year. That's their schedule this year.
So that's a nice divisional team, like a nice division.
Yeah. So just to give you a heads up, the Bengals do play a first place schedule, but they do get this isn't preseason.
So they'll play New Orleans, Tampa, right?
Steelers, Cowboys, Jets, Dolphins, Ravens, Saints, Falcons, Browns, Panthers, Steelers, Titans, Chiefs, Browns, Buccaneers, Patriots, Bills, and Ravens. So they do have a tough schedule.
So their end of their schedule is brutal.
Yeah, the end of their schedule is brutal. So like from the beginning to the midsection, it's going to be key for them. But I still like them. Like they're.
I love this team. Absolutely love them.
So I mean, I know I said it's always y'all two versus me, but just to give you a heads up, what was our throwback to last episode? AFC South. Who'd you pick to win, Drew?
Why am I going blank on this?
AFC South.
The Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd you pick to win, Jared?
The same.
Okay, so see, it's not always y'all against me.
Yeah, we were all on board for that one.
Yeah, see,
Jaguars make a run.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and close the episode out there. So, I have the Bengals winning. I said last year they were a year away. I'm not gonna go against them right now. Both of Jared and Drew both have the Ravens winning. So Jay, if you're listening to this, Jay Barlow, my boy, shout out to real Ravens fan. Also Cole. Shout out to him.
Yeah, Cole Williams, my dog.
Yeah, Cole Williams.
Sir.
Yes, sir. Slinging that produce at Big Kroger in Murray. That's my guy right there. Big Ravens fan. So shout out to both of you guys, big Ravens fans. And James Samples, if you're listening to this for whatever reason, the only Bengals fan I've known my entire life. Shout out to you.
Yeah, I know one.
Shout out to Samples, man. That dude has been a Bengals fan since we were kids, growing up. Only Bengals fan I've ever met a day in my life. Love.
Blake.
Blake was a Bengals fan.
I don't even know a single Bengals fan. I don't know one.
So I know two. I know two.
Yeah. So hey, if you're a lifelong Bengals fan, shout out to you.
Yeah, man, I love it. And I think we should all make a Bengals game this year. I think we should all.
I agree. I'd love to actually.
Let's go up. I know it's not Paul Brown Stadium anymore. They just changed the name, but I would love to get up there. But we're gonna go ahead and end the episode there. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's been a fun episode. Outside of we had a little bit of serious talk there in the middle. You can go ahead and skip that. But and if you skip it, look, I don't fault you one bit because we look at football as an escape. Yeah, so no hard feelings there. That being said, if you're watching on YouTube, if you like what you hear, all that kind of good stuff, go ahead, give us a subscription, hit the bell notification. You can be notified. We have one more divisional preview left. We have the NFC North, which is going to be another fun division as well. You like that. We like that. Kirk Cousins likes that.
Kirk
Aaron
Cousins is gonna
Rodgers
really like me next episode.
yeah, not as much as Aaron Rodgers is
Spoiler
going to like
alert.
me. And not as much as the Bears fans. My
Kirk
Bears
Cousins
are going to
like
hate me. My Bears.
my
So we get the
Bears.
NFC North episode coming up here soon. If you're listening on audio format, whether that's on Spotify, whether that's on Apple, like we said at the beginning, thank you guys so much. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and comment down in the YouTube section, or give us a comment, leave a review for the audio section, so we can know what you guys want to hear. If you have a better, I'd rather hear you guys talk about this. We'll talk about it. I think you guys should do this different. Hey, maybe we'll look into that. We're really excited to bring you guys some more content, and especially, like we said, coming up into the season, we're going to be dropping fantasy stuff. Basically our
I
rankings
can't
for the
wait.
week. I know Drew's super excited about that. We got DFS stuff coming from Big Jared as well.
Already have a week one sleeper.
Yeah. So if you didn't know, he's already been killing it, and especially in baseball, dude's been making thousands in baseball. Thousands of dollars. So
This
we're
month's
super,
great, but
yeah,
the previous
not as good as last month, but
killed in July. Absolutely.
yeah. He murdered. He was texting me every day like, "Hey, bro, just won $1,200. Hey, bro, just won $800." Like on a daily basis. So yeah, we're excited to bring Jared's DFS stuff as well, and then I'm really excited to break down the film, break down the games, maybe give you guys a little bit of an insight to how the real life NFL football stuff works. Super excited.
I want to say one thing real quick too.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I have a newfound respect because I am the daily fantasy guy. Like you guys are definitely more in depth on the whole league as a pitcher, but I utilize like Landon, like his X's and O's. I use that daily too. Like there is so much like knowledge in this podcast, and I know obviously we have a good time doing it, but you guys make sure to tune into every show and like take bits and pieces from everything. If you play fantasy football, like whether it's year round or if you're playing weekly or whatever, incorporate what Landon's preaching by like these team strategies and everything too. Because at the end of the day, it's all volume based. And like,
oh yeah, man, opportunity is key.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Like I love analytics. I'm a nerd.
Yeah, I'm not a huge analyst. I mean, like analytics has its purpose, but I'm much more of a film guy. Like,
well,
that was
film daily. That's my point. It's like I love analytics. I love the numbers behind everything, but the eye test still matters. You still need to watch the games, and you still need to trust your eyeballs. So like, don't be a slave to just the numbers. Like watch the games, watch the film, come to your own conclusions. I mean, it makes the whole process more fun.
And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah,
that's what
like if you're more invested, like if you see a guy, like if you're watching a game back or something, and you see a player that just pops on the screen to you, to your eyeballs, you're like, man, that guy just looks like he's special. And you play fantasy football, flip around and go, like, if your draft hasn't happened, reach a little bit, draft that guy. Or if you're in a dynasty league, go trade for that guy. Like, whenever you have a gut feeling about somebody, or you have strong convictions about a player, and you turn around and flip that into fantasy, it just makes it that much more fun. Like, I would rather lose with players that I had this gut feeling about, or that I had strong feelings about, than just like luck into a win with players that I would like. Like I ended up with a bunch of players that I had doubts about, but it ended up working out for a year, whatever. Like it's great. It's
so
like
winning
is better than losing, but
it makes every game more fun too, because like this year, when I'm watching the Jets versus the Jaguars on Thursday Night Football, I'm looking at Elijah Moore, I'm looking at Breece Hall, I'm looking at Christian Kirk, all guys that I've called my shots on, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, I'm watching these guys perform. It's the Jets versus the Jaguars. Nobody's having fun if they're not watching these guys. Mm-hmm. And, it gives you something to root for, and it gives you something more fun. And both these guys outside of me, like I said, I'm much more of like a real life grind. Like I grind film. I love breakdowns of teams and schemes and play calls and how things work in the real life, but both these guys give you so much more information as far as fantasy football and DFS than I ever could. So make sure, once we get into the season and, Drew's doing his fantasy rankings, Jared's giving you these lineups for free, by the way, which he doesn't have to do.
No pay window whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. No pay window into this. He's giving you a free lineup every week to possibly win you money, like cash, like
and it's not going to be a complete computer generated. It's going to be a unique.
Yeah, he grinds. I'm telling you right now, dude grinds on a weekly basis to give you these matchups, and to give you these rosters. Drew's the same way. He's the only person I know in like real personal life that does his own rankings, gives you these, these guys to draft,
impressive.
Gives you sleep. Yeah, dude, it's so much time that goes into this stuff. It's so impressive. So it's not just me that grinds film. These guys do their part too. And it's what makes this show special to me, is like we each have our own niche and we each touch a different area of football. And it depending on whatever you're looking for in football, whether you're looking for, wide receiver cornerback matchups, or real life schemes and a glimpse into like how these teams are actually thinking, like you're going to enjoy stuff that I say. Whether you're looking into fantasy football, which I know a lot of you are, you're going to love what Drew brings to the table. And if you're looking into DFS and you want to win some extra cash on the weekend, take your girl out or guy out, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
It's whatever. It's all good here. Take whoever out on a weekend date or buy them a new purse or get a new iPhone or, whatever. Jared's down here to help you out with that as well. So, you know what? We're super excited to bring you guys so much content coming up to this season. Like I said, we have one more divisional preview. Then we're going to bring you our full picks for the NFL season, how we think it's going to end up, give you MVPs, give you comeback player of the year, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, everything you can think of. We're going to roll into one show, and it's probably going to be a little bit longer. And then on top of that, later this week, we do have our DFS, or not DFS, but our IDP Dynasty League draft we're doing for the show as well. We got some really awesome guys in there with us as well. Some guys have, tens of thousands of Twitter followers. Some guys you probably never heard of, but it's really fun what we're doing in there. So make sure to tune into that episode as well. But just please support the channel. Thank you guys so much. If you are on Twitter, follow us on Twitter at 3Man Rush Podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, all of our handles on Twitter are here in the description page and right here on the video you're watching as well. So go ahead and give us a follow as well. And we're really excited, man. I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna watch Hard Knocks. I'm gonna bite some kneecaps. Gonna tread some water. Gonna whatever Dan Campbell says. I'm gonna do.
We'll tread water as long as it takes until we fucking bury you. Something like that.
Yeah.
Legend. Dude's a legend.
Yeah, what a beast. So I'm super excited to start Hard Knocks tonight, and we will see you guys here in a few days for our NFC North preview. And then we got the draft, so we'll be here. And thank you guys so much for supporting us. We'll see you later.